Hello and welcome. Today we're going to dive into something that might totally change the way you think about getting sick. We're talking about this surprising and honestly really important link between common viruses and the long-term health of your heart. So let's just kick things off with a big question. Could that case of the flu you had last winter actually increase your risk of having a heart attack? It sounds pretty dramatic, I know, but it's a question that scientists are now answering with some seriously compelling evidence. And to get why this matters so much, you got to look at this number, 20.5 million. That is how many people died from cardiovascular diseases around the world in 2021. It's the #1 cause of death, period. So you can see why finding any new risk factor is a huge deal. We usually think of a virus as, a temporary fight. You feel awful for a week or two, you push through it, and then it's over. But what if that fight leaves a hidden danger behind? It turns out new research is showing these infections can pose a lasting threat to our hearts. A lot of what we now know comes from this one landmark study, a massive scientific review that was published in the Journal of the American Heart Association. And this isn't just one team's opinion. We're talking about a huge, comprehensive look at the evidence from all over the world. So, what did this huge analysis actually find? Well, we're about to look at the combined verdict from decades of research, all brought together in one place. And when I say huge, I really mean it. The researchers didn't just run one experiment. They dug through and analyzed 155 separate individual studies. A meta-analysis like this, it gives us a way stronger, much more reliable answer than any single study ever could. And here it is, the main takeaway, and this is a direct quote from the paper. It's not just one virus, it's a whole bunch of them. The flu, COVID, HIV, even the virus that causes shingles. They were all connected to a higher risk of major heart problems. Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this, the scientists realized that these viruses don't all work the same way. They seem to threaten the heart in two pretty different patterns, so they sorted them into two main categories. So on one side, you have the acute attackers. Think of these like a lightning strike. They cause this sudden, sharp spike in your heart risk right after you get sick. And on the other side, you've got the chronic risks. These are more like a slow burn, raising your risk little by little over months or even years. Let's start with a big one in that acute attacker group, the good old flu. We all know it makes you feel miserable, but what it can do to your heart is immediate. And honestly, it's pretty shocking. Just look at this data. The danger is so clear. In the first 7 days after a confirmed flu infection, your risk of a heart attack skyrockets. It's more than 7 times higher than normal. It does go down, but you can see that risk is still almost twice as high even in the second week. The second acute attacker is a virus we are all now way too familiar with, SARS-CoV-2. The COVID-19 pandemic really put this virus-heart connection on the map in a way that the medical world just couldn't ignore. And the data completely backs this up. The analysis found that after you get COVID-19, that higher risk for a heart attack or a stroke, it can last for the first 14 weeks. That's a much longer window of acute danger than what we see with the flu. Okay, so now let's pivot to those chronic risks, the slow burn we talked about. This data really shows the long-term danger. For people living with HIV, the risk of coronary heart disease is 60% higher. For hepatitis C, it's 27% higher. And even for something like shingles, there's a persistent 12 to 18% bump in risk. So we've covered the what, but now let's get to the how. How can a respiratory virus or a skin rash actually end up damaging your heart? Well, the science points to two main ways this happens. The first way is pretty much what it sounds like, a direct invasion. Some of these viruses, like the ones that cause COVID and shingles, can actually get inside the cells that line our blood vessels. They literally infect them and cause damage right from the inside.
But the more common way is indirect, and it's kind of like biological friendly fire. See, when your body detects a virus, it sounds the alarm and launches this massive inflammatory attack. And while that inflammation is great for fighting the virus, it can have a dangerous side effect. It can shake loose those fatty plaques that might already be in your arteries, making them way more likely to break open and cause a clot.
I know, this all sounds a little grim, but this is where the story takes a turn for the better. This knowledge is actually super empowering because it points to a really clear, actionable solution. The logic here is so simple, but so powerful. If getting sick with a virus raises your risk of heart disease, then, well, not getting sick in the first place is a great way to protect your heart. This really makes you rethink what preventative care even means, right? We always talk about diet and exercise, but this evidence suggests that something like a vaccine should be right up there as a key tool for your heart health, just like managing your cholesterol. And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. This is the final, powerful conclusion from the actual scientists who did this huge review. They put it very clearly. Vaccines can play an important role in preventing cardiovascular disease. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to end on. If getting a vaccine for a respiratory bug can help protect your heart, it just makes you wonder, right? What other amazing connections between different parts of our health are we just on the verge of discovering? Thanks for tuning in.